Breaking news. On tonight's episode, figure out what happens when Brandon comes into contact with a snake.
And what happens when we put 5 missionary kids on a Zoom call. Stay tuned.
Welcome to The Adventures of Grizzly and Sparrow, a podcast where we explore how God is using students to impact the campus and the world.
Hey guys, welcome back to episode 2. We are your hosts, Sparrow and Grizzly. If you weren't able to watch the podcast that we posted last week with Leo and Rebecca Belavoski, you should definitely go check that out. You can find it on YouTube or Spotify, Google Podcasts, pretty much any podcast platform out there.
Yeah, so we had a great time talking to those guys. Definitely check that out. So we got a lot of feedback. We officially launched. It's out there. A lot of our listeners watching on YouTube, listening to it on Spotify and all these other platforms. Great feedback. Okay, great feedback. Everybody loved it. I think probably the most popular part, in terms of all the people that I've talked to, has been the kids' corner.
Yeah, yeah.
has been the kids' corner.
What can you expect?
So everybody's loved that, which was pretty funny because Aubrey and Elliot had a blast doing it. They just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I had zero idea what they were going to say.
Pretty color.
So we thought, yeah, his response, pretty color. The way he said beaches was my favorite part.
Yeah.
Where do you like to go swimming? Beaches, of course. I'm like, where did you get your southern accent? We're from Stillwater, man. I don't know.
That's funny.
I don't know what life that came from. So we thought in order, because we almost broke YouTube. Like we almost broke it. Mm-hmm. But we thought this week we would try to push it over the top. And we would try to shut the entire internet down. So later in this episode,
You got to stay tuned.
you'll have to stay tuned for another kids corner with 5 missionary kids.
Yeah.
Trying to have a conversation. I would say an interview. It's less of an interview and more of chaos and chaos and conversation. There we go.
Yep.
Kids Corner, renaming it Chaos and Conversation. But you'll want to stay tuned for that. It's pretty legendary.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question, Sperry. I've been thinking about this today. What's your greatest fear?
Ooh. My greatest fear.
Or something you're most afraid of, either one.
The thing I'm most afraid of, it's like both extremes, but the most fearful thing that I can see in my life is like burning to death. If you burn to death, you literally can't do anything. You just hurt the whole time.
Yeah.
And then my second greatest fear is obviously the other one, drowning to death.
Gotcha.
I would never want to burn to death. I would much rather drown to death than burn to death.
Wow.
But both are very scary.
both are very scary. I think so. A lot of people are afraid of like spiders. Stacy's terrified of snakes.
Yeah.
I think Jalen said she was terrified of snakes.
Oh, yeah. She would kill me.
So a lot of people. Yeah. if
I
there was a
didn't
snake,
get this thing,
that was. Today we had a snake in our house. This like giant. I don't know when you guys are listening to this. It's Saturday afternoon, evening. June, I don't know what it is, June 9th now. 6th, there we go. June 6th, futuristically speaking.
Yep.
So we had this snake. This is like our second snake in the last couple weeks.
Oh,
but
dang.
this one was in our flower garden, and it was like stuck in like the weirdest spot that I couldn't get to it. There was about 10 minutes where I thought I lost it, and you know what went through my head?
He probably went in the house.
I thought to myself, I didn't even think that. Like I didn't even think he was going in the house. My literal thought was, if Stacy knows that I lost this snake and didn't kill it, yeah. I'm not going back in the house.
So you're not even afraid of the snake. You're just afraid of the repercussions of not getting the snake.
Repercussions of not killing the snake.
I got you.
So after 15 minutes of frantically researching for it, I found it, and to continue to put it to a no longer mobile state, and so it was pretty sketchy there for a few minutes, but it was big. It was like 4 or 5 foot, something like that. It was pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy. Aubrey came out. She was like helping me for a minute, but she didn't want to stay out there for a long time. So Aubrey can kind of handle them. She can look at them. Stacy a little less so.
Yeah.
Elliot wants to see it because he's like, it's a snake. He's a boy. He's like 4-year-old. He's like, I want to see it. He didn't get to see this one though. He wasn't feeling good. But yeah, so Aubrey came out, helped me kind of take care of it, and then, we put it down. But it was pretty sketch there for a little bit. I thought it's gonna go down, like it's gonna go down if I don't get this thing.
For sure.
So yeah, snakes are. No, I'm not scared of snakes. I will say that. I was thinking about that today afterwards. That question, like, what am I most afraid of? That's a hard to answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's really hard to answer. You good thoughts though on the, drowning and burning to death.
I've just seen too many movies.
I haven't even gone that far.
People catch on fire, like you see some mob movie where the guy gets in his car, and then like they put a bomb on it for some reason, and as soon as he starts it, it blows up, and then he rolls out and runs down the street on fire. Well, that's like the worst feeling is burning to death.
So like I think I'm not gonna say I used to be afraid of heights. There is a little bit of trepidation, when we get up high on certain things. But like my first like overseas flight was a little sketchy. My first, actually it was my second flight in like my whole life. So my first flight time on an airplane was like from Oklahoma City to Phoenix or something like that. So we were flying out to Arizona for a conference. But then like my next flight was, 18 hours. So it was a little bit of a drastic jump. A little bit of a drastic jump. So I wasn't terrified. I was okay, but I remember being a little like, it was a mix of like excitement to like be on the plane and like watch out the window. Cause that's what I love. I love like watching out the window and stuff. Yeah. Mixed with, wow, we're really high up. And then our landing like in, cause we landed in Moscow, actually. We had to stop in Moscow. It was a little sketchy. So it was, it was interesting. Interesting. So like, now it's like not as bad flying. Yeah. But like Ferris wheels are a little bit more freaky than planes for some reason. I think it's because you're stationary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
One time, Jalen and I hadn't been on very many planes. Like the first time I flew on a plane, I flew to New York to see my sister-in-law. That was fun. And then the second time I got on a plane, flew to Thailand. That was pretty legit. And then Jalen and I were on our way to go see some good friends in Hawaii, Dalton and Kristen Slavens.
Shout out to the Slavens in Hawaii.
Yeah, just killing it on the beach every single day. Not jealous. But we were on our way to go see them, and we were flying into Phoenix. Yeah. And we get about 35 minutes away from landing, and the cabin starts to fill up with smoke in the plane. And so we're like, holy smokes, what's going on? Well, everybody starts freaking out, right? Yeah. And so I'm like, all right, nothing's bad's going to happen or whatever. Lord, protect us all. So we're sitting there, and I was calm until the flight attendant started freaking out. Oh, yeah. And when the flight attendant started freaking out, I'm like, okay, nobody actually knows what's happening. They're
supposed to be calm. Yeah. They're the ones that are supposed to keep you calm.
Nobody had no idea what was going on. So we land, thankfully. It was pretty cool. Like, whenever we landed the plane, there were like 15 fire trucks following us down the runway. So it was like, it was real weird.
Real excitement.
But they sent us an email like a couple weeks later and said that like the AC system had locked up and like one of the belts fried, and so it just smoked it out. So I don't know if that was a, like a thing to ease our minds or if that's actually what happened, but yeah.
Here's a follow-up question in terms of flying, kind of along the same lines. This is something else I was thinking about today. If you could go anywhere in the world, cost wasn't a matter, wasn't a factor. Coronavirus wasn't a factor. I mean, let's put it in perspective. There was no restrictions. You guys could go anywhere. You by yourself or you with a family. Mm-hmm. Where would you go?
So I'll do
number one destinations.
I'll do both, solo and with my family. Solo, I'd want to go like way up north in Russia into the mountains, maybe over in that Siberia area. Yeah. The real crazy, where you get like 40-foot blizzards that kill you. I'd like to go up there and ride a snowmobile. And then
just to ride a snowmobile.
Oh yeah, just ride a snowmobile. And then family, go anywhere in the world. I'd probably like to go somewhere in Canada. Yeah. They got a lot of good like lakes and rivers up there that you can fish. Beautiful. Catch like a 14-foot pike or something crazy. I just think the boys would love. Watchman loves water right now, and so going out and be able to see like bears and like moose and stuff, like he would flip smooth. I would be terrified, but he would be like, "Oh my God, there's a bear," and he would start growling at it like a psycho.
Go attack it. Yeah.
So that'd probably be my two.
I think if I was to choose, it is different when you think solo and when you think with a family.
Yeah, because solo, you're like, I'll go anywhere. I could kill off like 3 snakes and still survive.
I think if I was going, oh gosh, that's hard, man. I've always wanted to go to Ireland. First of all, I've always thought Ireland would be an awesome place to go. Yeah. Beautiful, just incredible. history. Shout out to Blake and Katie Edgemond missionaries there in Ireland. So Ireland's always been a place I've always wanted to go. A couple summers ago, I got to go to a different part of Thailand, which was pretty cool. The beach part, Surat Thani. Max, don't know if you're listening, but shout out to Max.
Shout out.
So Surat Thani was very, very different than where we've been in Thailand because it was all beaches. I would like to go back with the family to like that part of Thailand.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen that part of Thailand. But China is another place I've always thought would be really, really cool.
Yeah.
Like so we were supposed to go to Japan this summer. Japan's always been a place I thought, man, it would be epic to go.
Yeah.
A lot of these places that are like both like beautiful scenery, beautiful culture, also like history and all that sort of stuff, kind of appealing to me, you know. I'll say this. Another spot that I've just been like wanting to go, as it hasn't worked out, and it kind of comes into play with our special guest tonight, Costa Rica.
Yeah, man.
Costa Rica. So you look at you Google Costa Rica and the pictures are just absolutely beautiful.
Oh yeah.
As our guest will tell you, maybe tonight, maybe at another point, there's mountains, there's beaches, there's volcanoes, there's tropical. You get
Kind of
basically
a one-stop shop.
you get all these different kind of diverse places to go all in one spot. And so that's been another spot. They've tried to get us. They've tried to recruit us. It hasn't worked out yet.
Dude, flights are cheap right now.
I know
man.
flights
are cheap this summer.
Listen,
just wear a mask.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie and say I didn't already Google how much the prices were. Okay, I'm not gonna try to say that I didn't do that because we've been down that road.
I wonder if the TSA people would let you carry more than 3 ounces of hand sanitizer.
I don't know. You would think so. You'd think so if you can't. If you got to wipe your hands every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I did Google that. Yeah.
Dang.
It's already checked it out. Prices are cheap. Turns out. Prices are cheap everywhere. But Costa Rica it's another spot that I've wanted to go.
Yeah.
Speaking of Costa Rica, do you want to tell them who our guest is? Our special guest interview tonight?
Yeah. 2 people very special to the Oklahoma tribe here. They are both missionaries to Costa Rica. Adam and Sarah Quinn have 2 beautiful children, Sadie and Atlas. You'll get to hear from them tonight about kind of their journey as how they got called into vocational ministry and into Costa Rica and kind of some of the challenges and cool stuff that's happened since they've been there.
One of the things we love doing is just catching up, especially with our missionary friends. So I know Michael and I know you guys pretty well, known you guys for a long time, but a lot of our students and alumni and, just people that are going to be listening to this probably don't have a good idea of who you are. So just give yourselves a little introduction. Let us know who you are, where you're at, and kind of what ministries and stuff you're involved with there in your country.
Sure. We're Adam and Sarah Quinn. Both grew up in Oklahoma, both graduated from the University of Oklahoma. We're involved in Chi Alpha there. We're MAs with Chi Alpha 3 years after graduating, working with Greg Tiffany and pioneering at the University of Tulsa. But then we felt like God was calling us to Costa Rica. And so in 2013, we started that process and we got to Costa Rica in 2014. And a little bit about us, we have 2 little kids. We have Sadie and Atlas, who are 4 and 2. And Sadie was born here in Costa Rica. Atlas was born in the States while we're itinerating. And we work with university ministry primarily here in Costa Rica. And we're also working towards planting a church, which is kind of crazy, but we're excited about it. And we just rented a new facility. And so really excited about all the future plans that could be there. But right now we're just trying to get through this fun COVID-19 season of life.
Yeah, for sure. We're all on that same boat. Things are just starting to open up here. So we were probably a little bit on the better end of it than you guys are. I know last time we talked, everything's still pretty shut down. So you guys have been in Costa Rica since 2014. So what you say, that's 6 years. That's pretty awesome. 6 years. I know you guys came back for a year from furlough. And you graduated from OU, both of you guys. We're not gonna make fun of it. We're pro OU sometimes.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Did you guys just do the Boomer Sooner thing on as well?
We did.
That's pretty funny. What did you guys study while you were students at OU?
Well, my degree is in Spanish with a minor in health and exercise science.
And mine is in health and exercise science, with, well, basically that. Almost a minor in Spanish, but not quite, so doesn't matter.
So basically the same master, the same degrees. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty well planned right there. I would say. So you guys were involved in Chi Alpha at Oklahoma State, right? Or at OU, not Oklahoma State. See, I just slip it in.
Right.
It just comes out. It just comes out. You guys were what kind was your involvement with Chi Alpha there at OU when you guys were students?
We were involved in a lot of aspects in life groups, worship band, and intramurals. A lot of intramurals. That was a personal passion. We had one great intramural softball run.
Nice.
We took third place in the all-campus tournament. It was pretty exciting. Those are the good days. We back then OU had a facility right on campus called Stubman Mall. It was right there by the Adams dorm. Well, the mall is, we called it Rome 12, our facility. So I helped clean that for several years, early in the morning.
Bunch life groups.
So you were there when Greg Tiffany was the director?
Greg was the director my freshman year.
Nice.
And then my sophomore year, Sarah's freshman year, Nick Calloway came with Blake
Awesome.
Edgman.
Yeah.
And then Jonathan and Allie joined while we were still there, but they didn't take over until after we graduated. Right.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Love all those guys. So Greg Tiffany's now State Chi Alpha director. Jonathan and Allie are at LSU Chi Alpha, and Nick and Becky are in Colorado at a church plant. So it's pretty cool legacy coming out of OU campus, OU Chi Alpha campus. You guys there in Costa Rica. So I'm kind of curious. I always love hearing how people kind of realize that they were called to vocational missions, not just vocational ministry, but just like vocational missions. I know everybody's kind of got a different story, a different kind of perspective on how that kind of happened. And we'd love to hear your guys' story on kind of how you kind of felt that calling and what that looked like. Was that like when you were as a student? Was that before even college? Was that after college? A lot of our students are kind of dealing with the same kind of questions of what's life look like after college? Some of our students feel, called to missions. And so I think it would be great encouragement to kind of hear your guys' story, if that's cool.
Sure. And we have really different calls and stories as well. And so that kind of makes it fun. My story is I grew up in a Assemblies of God family, and I always went to all the youth camps and the kids camps and all those things. And if you go to youth camp and there's 4 nights and they have a pattern, first night's salvation, second night is get rid of the baggage, third night's the Holy Spirit, and the fourth night's a call into ministry.
Yeah.
And so every year I would go through those 4 nights from 6th grade all the way through senior in high school, and I always felt in my gut that I wanted to do ministry stuff, but I never felt like I had a direct call. And all my friends were called to be youth pastors or whatever, and I just knew I did not want to be youth pastor no matter what. And so for me, I had been praying about my future for a while, but I was getting to that point. I was going to graduate high school, and I was super stressed about what college to go to, what I'm supposed to do with my life. And I went on my first missions trip that summer. We went to El Salvador, and there was this moment towards the end of the trip. It was super surreal for me. We had snuck out of the back of the church. We were supposed to stay in the church until service that night. And we thought we were super smart because we were 16, 17 years old, and we all wanted sodas. And so well, what is the missionary now? We'll go grab some Cokes and we'll be back for it as it happened. It turns out there's a gang leader who's being released back to the community from prison that night, and gonna be a lot of violence and whatnot. Wow. So probably should have listened, but we didn't. We snuck out the back door. And I just remember this moment where we were drinking the sodas that we bought, and it was the most surreal moment I've ever had with God. And it was just kind of everything slowed down for a moment. I felt him really just speak into my heart and tell me that this is what I'd been searching for, that'd be a missionary to Central America. I didn't know what that meant, but I thought all good missionaries need to go to Bible school. And so I started looking down that road, and but I kept feeling pulled to University of Oklahoma too. And so I ended up paying housing deposits at Evangel University and OU. And after a very long process that involves flipping a coin and all kinds of stuff, I finally felt like I had a piece about going to OU, and it's definitely where I was supposed to be, and it's how God kind of set up our entire future.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I kind of randomly got involved with Chi Alpha as a freshman. I was just looking for some university ministry and went to a few different ones, but really fell in love with Chi Alpha. And then my sophomore year, we started dating, I think. But even then, I loved God, but I felt like I wanted to be a doctor. And so I always felt like, God gives you your passions, right?
Yeah.
And so my passion was God, people, science, like medicine kind of thing, like helping people in that aspect. So that's what I wanted to do. But my junior year, I just was praying one night, and you're kind of getting close to graduating, right? Like junior year. Like, okay, God, like, what do you want me to do? Because up to that point, I hadn't like specifically heard. I felt God say, like, I want you to be a doctor. That's just what I was interested in. But anyways, I was praying and told him, like, God, if you want me to do anything other than be a doctor, I need you to change my passions, because this is kind of the only thing I want to do, right? Like, I need you to change my heart, give me new passions if you want me to do something else. And at that point, we'd been dating a year or so. I think about a year, a little over a year. And so, I mean, even in that time, like, we were dating, I knew he wanted to be a missionary. I knew I wanted to be a doctor, but, it's like, okay, let's see what happens, I guess. But yeah, then I fell asleep. But next morning,
all good prayers then.
That's all good prayers.
but the next morning I woke up, I just had no desire for medicine, for being a doctor. Is such a drastic change in my life, where I went from, living and breathing this desire to now what? Now what do I do? And like I said, I was a junior, right? So more than halfway through my degree, health and exercise science, which I kind of like to make fun of that just a bit. Like, oh yeah, I'm well equipped to be a missionary with my health and exercise science degree. But honestly, part of that, the degree is community health and, health promotion and things. And so I just felt like God gave me a passion for holistic health, like the health of the whole person, including their spirituality, right? Like, if we don't know our creator, our savior, if we don't know God and have a relationship with him, I'd argue that we're not as healthy, right, as we could be. And so still interested in science and all of that and different things, but definitely in the capacity of missions. And so it's been really cool to see God shape that.
So did you guys meet in Chi Alpha, or did you guys meet in your degrees, I guess? So it was Chi Alpha.
Do you want to answer this?
Well, Sarah and I don't quite agree on this.
I may or may not remember the first time we met.
But the first time we met, we were actually moving her into her dorm room, as Chi Alpha does, using the fun Z carts or whatever we call them.
Yeah.
And she was actually living on the floor of another Chi Alpha student leader who I was actually dating at the time. So she was actually her RA is what happened. And so that's the first time I met her, but she doesn't recall that. But then she ended up coming to Chi Alpha, probably by the prompting of her RA, probably told her about Chi Alpha after us. And yeah, we had a really close group of friends. And so Sarah and I were kind of best friends for like a year and a half before we ever started dating or anything.
Solid.
That's good. That's good.
What are some of the in Costa Rica? what are some of the challenges? I want to ask you two questions. First, like, what are some like big major challenges that you've faced since you've gotten there?
Gee, that's a fun question because there's a lot of different sides to it, right? Are we talking like personal
Yeah.
or ministerial?
I'd be
Or-
interested in a lot of them.
Yeah, oh,
You know,
yeah.
a lot
All
of
of
the
the
angles.
above, probably.
You know, I
mean,
think I think it's good for people to kind of
Let's hear all
hear,
your
you know, especially
problems.
those that are considering missions. You know, it's good to hear kind of, you know, the struggles, not just ministry wise or culture wise, but just like, you know, things that are family wise or, you know, and I'm not saying this is not spill your
Yeah.
beans hour, Quinn.
Yeah.
This is,
Save that for the good
this
life.
is, you know, this is a chance to, encourage the students.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning 3 elements, and that's personal, ministerial, and relational.
Hmm.
And so, first of all, like on just the personal, like the living part, we were lucky because we both came in with a lot of Spanish, and even though we still did time at our language school here as a requirement, we got out early. We started beyond their normal lesson plans, like so we came in, you know, functioning in the language. A lot of missionaries come in and they don't know a word,
Mm.
and they're reduced to asking for stuff like kindergartners, you know.
Yeah.
And so luckily we bypass that, but you don't think about all the elements of life that you know how it works because you grew up with it
Yeah.
working that way,
Yeah.
right? Like stuff like paying your electric bill, or we had a real shock whenever we accidentally didn't pay our internet bill. They were told us they would bring the bill to our door. Well, no one has addresses in Costa Rica. Like they don't exist. There's not even street names. And so our address right now is from the University of Fidelitas, 700 meters south, 300 meters east, and
Wow.
condo, whatever, house, whatever in this case.
Slightly confusing.
Yeah, no, you just guessing. You're just guessing. And so it never showed up. We never paid, like disconnected our internet. And we spent the next, I guess,
Took a
full
month, didn't it? Yeah.
trying to get them to
Remember
reconnect it,
email.
even after we
Dang.
made the payments.
Because then they didn't have
Well,
the
they
equipment,
kept
right?
saying, "Oh, we'll send someone today," and then they wouldn't. And then finally, like I just took in all my stuff. Like we're done. We're changing companies. And like, oh, you had a router?
That's right.
What do you mean we had? Of course we had a router. We had, anyways. It's a whole deal. It's very frustrating. I'd spend every lunch break at language school on the telephone yelling. Well, I would get there sometimes with the cable company. Like, just send someone to connect it, please.
That's so funny, man.
So there's all those elements of life. Like, you know, you need to buy this ingredient, but you can't just go to. And we have Walmart.
Even,
If there's something you need, it's not going to be at Walmart. That's just like the rule.
I think that's in the U.S. too.
Yeah.
I don't
that's
know.
true.
Walmart's still a catch-all. I don't know. But
And no, like you go to look for like sour cream, right? Like
Mm.
where's the Daisy, right? Is like
Yeah. Yeah.
the marca in the U.S.
Yeah.
in the tub, right? But here it's in a bag. And it's like, oh, well, I never would have thought to have looked at any of those bags because
Wow,
I would have thought that it would be over with the tub.
yeah, or you need milk, but it's on the shelf and not in the fridge. You know, those type of things.
Strange.
So there's all
Yeah,
the
very
learning
interesting.
how to live in a new country, stuff that's super normal for where you're from, but you have to learn it as an adult. It's really weird.
I think there's also like a struggle that I've felt is also being from Oklahoma. Like, you know, I'm from Enid, so it's a fairly large town for Oklahoma, but you're surrounded by wheat fields and it's
Yeah.
still fairly rural. But here we moved to San Jose, so like a city of 3 million people, you know, and
Yeah,
you live
dang.
in an apartment or a condominium where you have people on either side of you, and like our house is right in front of the guard station, which is kind of nice because like we're the first house.
Yeah.
But also, anytime I walk out my front door, there's someone right there.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
like,
yeah. That's scary.
um,
Sketchy.
yeah, so it's just you don't have much like personal space, you
Mhm.
know, like we can hear everyone because we don't have any central heat and air either, so
Mhm.
it's all through ventilation with windows and stuff.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you hear other kids crying or our neighbor. I kind of like it, but
No.
our neighbors are very musically inclined. It's
Oh,
so
nice, nice,
Like
nice.
they'll
Lately,
be
they've
singing
been
opera or like
practicing
playing the
rhythms.
violin or
They've
something.
been practicing
pretty
rhythms
funny.
lately, like with a
Oh,
wood
they
block.
have. Sadie's like,
Oh,
what is
nice.
that?
Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Like for
Percussion.
hours? It's like cannot
Practicing the
be
wood block.
helpful.
What is that called? Is
Oh.
that just called a wood block? I don't know the instrumental name.
I
I
mean,
guess
it
it
is
is
a
just a wood
thing.
block. Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. The relationally, you whenever you change countries, you're faced with a lot of different elements of stress, and culturally, you're hitting all these. The word in Spanish is choques. It's like crashes, internal crashes that you have. And so what you find is then on top of all that, your relationships with all the white people around you, the Americans, get strained real quick. And so we experienced conflict with a lot of other students at Sincel or a director at Sincel or whoever. We had conflict, and that was a hard transition to adjust to and learn to give grace when I'm in the States. You're like, no, I'm just gonna slap them.
Well, and I think there's an element too, like, especially when you're, I was born and raised in Oklahoma, but I think even most people, like, your community is somewhat similar to you within the same state. But here, like, the field is from people on the East Coast, on the West Coast, the North, and the far South. Like, you have a lot of different microcultures. Like, we're all from the U.S., all from the same country, and so you kind of think like, oh, we're all from the same culture.
Everybody's gonna be the same,
but we're not. Like, someone just asked me the other day about pop rolls. I'm like, what are pop rolls? I'm like, like those rolls that are in the can that you pop them to open. I'm like, what? Like Pillsbury rolls. Like, that's
Pillsbury
what we call
rolls,
them,
biscuits, yeah. I don't pop rolls.
Sarah,
We don't call
Sarah
them pop
talks
rolls.
to weird people. Pop rolls.
I hadn't heard of that.
No, yes, who has? And then ministerially, there's a lot of differences. You're in our situation, a situation that is very relational, but also very passive aggressive. They won't be direct with stuff, so you have to learn to kind of navigate that. It's difficult because they're also a very hierarchical society, and so it took us time to kind of understand all the inner workings. And now within our ministry has its own culture that exists, and it's I like to say that it's more of a God culture in a sense. Like, we're not bringing in other cultures, but we're setting up a culture that's holy, that we're not passive aggressive, we're direct, but we handle conflict right. We're on time, we're this and this and this, we're equals. There's not this hierarchy, all these different things that make a more healthy ministry culture. And so learning all that was a long process, and it helps you confront all the challenges we have on campus, where anxiety is super high, depression, suicide, gay rights is a big push. Actually, gay marriage got legal last week. Wow. And it's a big ordeal, and a lot has to do with the leadership of the country at this moment, and it's a whole long story, but it's hard because the Christians in this country don't exhibit what people like to use as the term tolerance. Actually, I was talking to Destry Dobbs the other day, and he made a great point. Isn't that a funny term, tolerance?
Yeah.
Like have you ever said to someone, you know what, I tolerate you? Like, that's not a compliment. So what a funny thing to say. No, you need tolerance.
Yeah.
Like, but trying to guide our students through this, like, we show love to the person. Like, we got all these Christians in this country uploading. There's this image, and it says, "We've murdered the family," and it has like the gay flag and a little kid with his head chopped off, and a little kid with this rainbow mohawk, and it's just this grotesque image. It's like clip art. It's not real kid with its real head chopped off there, but it's just a really grotesque picture, and their uploading is just full of hate. Like, we're never gonna change anything in this country if we hate first. And so we're always learning and figuring out how to live in a different culture.
Kind of one of my last questions as we wrap up here. What's like a favorite story that you like to tell to people that have not come to Costa Rica yet?
I have a lot of funny mission trips
that we want to tell.
I love telling them.
But no, a mission trip story, or
just any story
to get people.
Just a story.
Okay.
A funny story. Any story you want to share.
Or funny story or just
And just whatever, it doesn't matter.
Whatever he said, I heard funny.
okay.
Yeah, you
just
can
like
say-
a
you can go
story,
funny.
a story that you love telling.
Like uplifting or like
Like
Oh,
a
yeah.
story.
It could be a success. It could be a win.
Do you want a testimony or
Yeah,
do you
it could
want
be a
like story about
testimony.
kid
It could
pooping
be
his
a,
pants?
there's a lot of flexibility in that. Quinn's got a lot of stories, so we can, have some leeway.
Well, what's a success story we should share?
yes, I'm trying to think through them.
Well, I mean, if you guys haven't heard the story of Joelle, who's one of our student leaders, incredible student, incredible leader who's been with us for a while now, but he's got a really, really tough story that comes from a history of sexual abuse that started when he was 5 and lasted until he was 18. And he graduated, and typically a student would live with their family until they get married, but he did really well in his exams and was able to get into the University of Costa Rica, which was really far away from where his home is. So he actually moved near campus, which probably literally saved his life in many senses. And so he moved on the campus, and he was confronted, coming from this background of sexual abuse and complicated relationships and stuff, with just reality on campus where they're pushing this, like, you have to accept your sexuality, you have to accept who you are, like telling him that he has to love that part of himself, and he hated that part, and it was just so much hatred built up inside of him. And he would every night just get home and just be so frustrated with life. And he got invited to life group one day, and he said that he came and that he felt such a genuine love from the people around him that when it was over and he left, like, he was even more confused when he showed up, because it was such, I'm going to use this word again, a choke, right?
Wow,
Internal conflict with the world around him and everything that he had been receiving on campus. He was genuinely confused. And this was like I think a Wednesday, and Thursday he went to class. Friday, still getting just inundated with this stuff. And he went home Friday after class, and he went to the kitchen and grabbed the biggest knife he could find, and he sat down on his bed, and he put it to his wrist, and he said, "You know what, God? People say you exist, but I don't believe them, because if you're real, this wouldn't be my life. And you have 30 seconds to save my life, or I'm going to slit my wrist." And right as he began to count, his doorbell rang. It was a student that had met him at life group on Wednesday.
Wow.
Said he'd been walking on campus and just felt impressed that he should come and check up on him, see how he is doing. And he comes by his apartment, and he says, "Joel, how's it going?" And he's like, Joel enters the door with this giant knife in his hand. And Joel just like breaks down, tells him the whole story. This student takes him home with him. He's like, "Come on, let's go with my family." And they went to church together on Sunday with his family. And he says that's the first time that he truly accepted Christ into his life.
Wow.
And he was in life group the following Monday, didn't miss any life groups. Like, he was like there every day of the week, even though life groups were the same content. He was at every life group every day of the week. And a year later, after God had set him free of all his hurt, pain, and addiction, and God had completely healed him, and he became a leader with us, and today is one of our greatest leaders, the greatest advocates, I would say. He's always talking to people about Rue, and he trains new leaders. He's just the greatest, greatest advocate for us. Is a great word.
Wow.
And we're hoping that he'll become one of our first full-time Costa Ricans to work.
That'd be awesome.
In Rue after he graduates.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. What do you guys? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Sarah.
The story that comes to mind for me is actually the one that kind of leads into that. But whenever we first started, we were working at UCR, University of Costa Rica. And it was one group. It was, really small, but we were working with the leader and kind of a vision casting, exercise with her. And we're just kind of asking her, like, what are your goals? Like, what is your dream that God does, through this life group on campus? And it it was kind of like just a I don't know, intense realization for her that she's like, I have never thought about that. And we find a lot of leaders don't know how to dream. It's like they've kind of given up, on some of the dreams, whether from family situations or or from something in their background, but that they kind of stopped dreaming somewhere along the way. And that was so impactful for her, though, because I mean, she's still like, she talked about that for a long time. She's like, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna pray that God helps me to dream again. And it's incredible because he did. And was it within a year or 2 years? I don't want to
the group.
I kind of think in 1 year.
Within,
right?
over the year that we worked with this leader in this group,
Within
it grew
a year, her group went from 5 people to multiple groups reaching 50 people, 50
That's
plus.
incredible. That's incredible.
And it was actually one of the people in her life group, right, that intersected with Joelle and that knocked on Joelle's door to check up on him.
Yeah.
So
That's so cool.
And she became Joelle's like one-on-one leader and mentor leader as he came into the ministry.
Solid. That's so cool. You took the idea. The question I was just getting ready to ask is, what's something you guys are dreaming about for Costa Rica? As the year goes on, as we get released from quarantine, as things open back up, and you're able to meet with your people again. Just what's something you guys have been dreaming about for Costa Rica?
That's where to start, I guess. But our entire ministry is relationship based, and obviously we have life groups and one-on-ones. But at the core of everything, the most important thing is that interpersonal relationship between our student leaders and the group members, and the group members and the students in their classes. And so it's a real change from the reality of what church is. And it takes sometimes a bit to get a new leader into the culture, up to speed, and an understanding, like, no, this is what we do. The relationship's what we do. Like, life group happens. Life group is not what we do. Life group happens every week, and it's when we come together with a group of us. But what we do is that relationship, and it happens every single day. And this whole COVID thing has really made it hard. You're not seeing the kids in campus every day. You're not in class. You're not sitting down and having lunch with them. And so we've tried to have our students be really intentional, reaching out, messaging people, but it's hard, and you lose contact with them quick. And so a prayer and a dream as we hopefully return to classes this year. Honestly, it's still a question mark here. While honestly, the virus is much less here, but they've taken very strenuous steps to it. So is that whenever we get back on campus, that they will just hop right back into it, and that they're gonna immediately start making connections again. It's a real fear that we've lost a lot of momentum because it's such a relational, one-on-one driven. We don't have large group meetings or anything. It doesn't function real great in our situation. So but long term, it's our dream to have ministry on all 60 campuses of Costa Rica and see and have 25,000 life group leaders. That way, each one of our 250,000 college students has the opportunity to hear about Christ.
It's incredible.
We can do that in 10 years. If every student will raise up one student leader every year.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty exciting. Hey, tell us just a little bit about the, because this is kind of a new development for you guys, the kind of church plant that you guys are doing there, because it's kind of it's a new, it's a very new, very new for you guys. So we want to hear just a little bit more about that for sure.
Yeah, I never wanted to plant a church. It wasn't something on my bucket list, and we have a really hard time finding good churches for our students to get involved in. And as I kind of like extrapolated from that, like I realized the reason is a lot of our churches aren't even accepting really to college students, and they kind of do a very rigid type church, and so it's really hard to find a church that's just in it to love people where they are, and then help bring them to God. And so we knew another missionary couple that was here, and they were going to plant a church near the University of Costa Rica, and we were super excited about it. We're like, we're going to be on your team 100%. Like, can't wait. Like, it was the first time I realized, like, this needs to happen. This Sunday needs to happen. And so that was maybe in like 2016 or something. And, I started taking steps and doing research and working on getting that going. And then like a crazy tragedy struck, and long story very short, they ended up leaving the Costa Rica field, and they're now on their way to Cuba, which is awesome. But no one was love for this church concept. It was like, oh, that's a bummer, but someone else will come. And after that, like, there's rumors of several other missionaries coming to Costa Rica to plant a church in the area, and each one of them just ended up going elsewhere. It's like, what on earth? And then I kind of had this thought in the back of my head one day, like, what if it's us? And I'm like, no, definitely not. And then we went to a big missionary gathering in August, and for the first time, our regional director presented to us a new initiative to plant, what is it, like, was it 1,000 churches in 4 years? I think.
Wow.
1,000 churches in Latin America in 4 years.
Wow.
By missionary personnel directly. That would just amplify the work the National Church is doing. And during that sharing time, we just felt like that it was just confirmation that, no, we're supposed to do this. And so we are planting a church near the University of Costa Rica. We just rented a facility. It's about 2 blocks away from campus.
Nice.
It's on top of
That's
a liquor store. It's directly in front of one of the most popular bars that the campus the students go to. It's going to be a completely different church than what exists here in Costa Rica. It's going to be small group focused. Honestly, we're hoping people are involved in small groups before they even come to a Sunday, or I don't even know if it's going to be a Sunday service, to be honest. Maybe it's a Friday or a Saturday service.
Right.
I'm not sure that the people getting drunk in the bars are up for coming to service on Sunday morning. So who knows? Maybe they pregame it at church Saturday afternoon. Or get them saved enough they skip the party. I don't know. We've got all kinds of ideas. But the vision's kind of grown a little, that it's not just a church plant, but we're going to launch a church planting network, and that's awesome. The first church will be in San Pedro, and we hope every 2 years to plant another one. We've got kind of our first 5 places lined out, and we want that to happen. And the church is going to be called Somos, which in Spanish means we are, right? And there's a lot of places in the Bible where the word Somos is used. But we also, one core part of Universitaria, our university ministry, is this belonging. The students feel this deep belonging. They like, we are RU. We are. Like, they just kept saying that whenever I asked them like what RU meant to them. And there's like this realization that that's what's important. Like, we are the church. Somos la iglesia. And so the entire point is going to be that the church is not what happens on Sunday. The church is happening throughout the week, and we'll celebrate every week together.
That's so awesome. It's so exciting, man.
Yeah, so Brandon mentioned earlier about all of our summer mission trips getting shut down. We're supposed to go to Japan, but virus everywhere.
Boo.
Bringing the whole world together for the Olympics doesn't seem like the best idea, I guess. We could spread the virus a lot faster that way, and then start dealing with repercussions a lot sooner.
Herd immunity.
But nobody else wants to do that. So instead, what Chi Alpha is doing is they've set up this kind of like virtual missions experience. So how it's going to work is we've got some stuff at home base here that needs some repairs done to make things work better. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Nicer.
But we also get the opportunity to partner with Adam and Sarah and their university And we're going to kind of do learn some stuff about culture
Yeah.
from those guys. We're going to get to cook some incredibly awesome meals. We've got a whole list of legit ingredients we got to find somewhere
Yes.
in Oklahoma, which is going to
Pretty
be
excited.
real
About
difficult.
that.
Hopefully Amazon sells that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. They
If
sell
not,
some of it. They sell some of it.
if not, we'll just have to go down to I don't know, we'll figure it out. Anyways,
Road trip.
gotta
we
say
get to cook a
Mexico.
lot of cool
Yeah.
Costa Rican dishes. Get to learn a lot
Yeah.
about the culture. Get to experience some of you guys' life groups, all while trying to do some hard manual labor stuff
Yeah.
here back in the States. So it should be pretty fun, I think.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about it. We appreciate you guys letting us have that opportunity to just come into what you guys are currently doing. So,
Yeah.
we were pretty sad. We were pretty sad when we had to cancel everything, obviously. But I think this is giving us the best of both worlds. We still get some stuff done here. We still get to connect with you guys. So that's pretty exciting stuff. Honestly, thank you guys so much for letting us just have some of your time to chit chat and catch up.
Kids Corner! I have a big queen. Hi, Walkman. Watchman, say hi. Walkman.
You know that he and Atlas are only like a week apart?
What?
Yeah, they're the same age.
Joey. That's it. One. City.
Aww.
Aww.
And your name? Atlas, he just said your name. He's a Watchman.
Mama.
Watchman.
Hi, I'm Watchman. No. Duan. Oh, Dora. What wife? Whoa. Hershey. I'm Aubrey, and this is Watchman. And today we have a special guest, Sadie Quinn. We route. What is your favorite? What is your favorite animal in Costa Rica, Sadie? You do it. What? You do it. A what? Oh, you do it.
Say it louder.
Rabbit, quad, koalas, and puppy. Koalas and puppies? Yeah, and I also rabbit. Okay. What?
Rabbits and sloths.
Yeah, I like rabbits and quad. Interesting. What do you like to do in the summer? I like to have a theme day.
Look at the camera.
And I like to have a theme day, and I like to play. You like to play? And I do it. What do you like to eat there? I like to eat fried and cheese and hot dog. Really? Yeah. Do you have a favorite place to go there? McDonald's! That sounds fun. If you had any superpower, which one would you choose? Super speed and flying. Flying and super speed? Uh-huh. I would probably choose speed too. Yeah. Do you have any pets? No.
That's right.
What kind of pet is he? A doggy. You have a doggy? Yeah. I have a dog too. What is your doggy name? My dog's name is Scout. What's your dog's name? Leo. Thank you for joining us today, Sadie. It's been really fun. Adios. Adios. Bye, Sadie. Bye.
That's all we've got for this week's episode.
Tune in to next week's episode number 3. Thanks for tuning in to the Adventures of Grizzly and Sparrow. We'll catch you guys next week.